everybody's looking for a silver bullet. There is no silver bullet in construction. It's death by 1,000 cuts. You got to start chipping away at it 1% at a time. And, you've got to be looking internally at your organization and the efficiencies and the systems and the processes that you put in place.
Hey everyone, welcome to Beyond the Build, the podcast where innovation meets collaboration in the world of construction. We bring together thought leaders and industry experts to explore the cutting-edge ideas transforming construction equipment, supply chains, building materials, and workforce productivity.
This podcast is proudly brought to you by Faro, the revolutionary last-mile logistics platform, redefining how high-value, time-sensitive construction deliveries get done. Need it fast? Need it right? Faro.
Hey everyone, today we are joined by Brad Robinson, a visionary builder, investor, and entrepreneur, redefining what it means to create lasting value in the construction industry. As a founding partner of Bradford Custom Homes, Rover Construction, and several other ventures, Brad leads the precision craftsmanship and forward-looking approach that blends tradition with innovation. Today we're going to be exploring how leading quality teams is reshaping the construction landscape, and why empowering the next generation of tradespeople is one of Brad's biggest passions. Brad, welcome to Beyond the Build.
Thanks.
Yeah, Brad, give me a flyover other than like your LinkedIn profile. I know you did like luxury custom homes, you done commercials, so like what's the story?
Yeah, man. So like I've been in construction my whole life. My family was in it. I take it back all the way to watching my parents run a business. My stepfather was an operator. He owned a trucking company. Essentially, it was grading and hauling. He worked for a lot of big developers in town. And then my mom was the bookkeeper at home. So, I mean, I grew up in it. But when it was time for me to go out on my own, like I wasn't going to be a part of the family business. Like it wasn't like that. And so I went out and got my own gig and ended up at a Sherwin-Williams paint store slinging paint. And then someone said, "Hey man, what do you think about popping on the other side of the counter?" And I never looked back. So that's really the story that got me into it. But I started a business back in my 20s, like my early 20s, where I was providing turnkey painting and drywall services for custom home builders. And we serviced about 20 really high-line custom builders in this market, and I grew the business pretty big. I also kind of started a division doing, direct-to-customer residential repainting services, building decks. That's when I got licensed, and then started doing like more whole home renovations, additions, and things like that. Kind of developed on those skills, rounded out my resume, so to speak. Ended up selling that business to my business partner, and then went to go learn the design piece of it a little bit better. So I ended up working for a retail asset protection company, learning about space planning, learning about commercial, outfitting of shell. So I learned a tremendous amount of information about the commercial piece by selling into those environments and then selling design services eventually to those retailers. And then, fast forward 2018, my phone just started ringing. I was doing a little flip and a client said, "Hey, you want to remodel my whole house?" And I was like, "Yeah, let's give it a go." And I jumped back in and never looked back. Met my business partner in 2020 who was doing some spec builds. And then I said, we need to package this differently. I want to take a different approach to it. I really want to kind of elevate into that highline design luxury piece. And, fast forward 2025, we're in 3 markets, Atlanta, Highlands, and Charleston, doing, multi-million-dollar custom home builds. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's funny, like what I was gonna ask, when you first got into it, you were doing the painting and the drywall. Were you just like one guy in a truck, or did you like, hey, one guy and 2 buddies or 10 buddies?
No, look, transparently, I've never been on the labor side of the equation. I was always sort of the operator, sales guy.
Good at organizing men and getting them where they're supposed to be and doing what they're supposed to do.
I was always like on the business element piece of it, right? So I managed jobs though. Yeah, absolutely. I would bring trades together. I would coordinate. I was doing all the pre-construction planning up front myself, collaborating between the architects, the interior designers, and bringing those guys together and then, still managing the client day to day. And as that kind of developed and evolved, I brought in a builder, and then I brought in pre-construction manager, brought in operators, brought in middle managers, and then, scaled it up to where we are today, 22 employees and growing.
What's the commercial side of things? I believe you're started to dabble in that end of the pool as well. It's kind of a whole different sport in some regards.
It is. It's like, basketball and football are still sports, but at the end of the day, it's a whole different set of rules. And, I had always, like, I started taking on commercial projects more like tenant improvement projects way back when I owned that painting and drywall company, because I was getting more opportunities to tackle more scope transparently. And I had learned through doing probably 5 or 6 different restaurants with some really cool brands out there that I really love doing commercial. And so I would just do them as they came in. I wasn't advertising for them, wasn't doing it. Well, you take on this element of risk when you're doing commercial while you're also dealing with massive amounts of client dollars in a new construction scenario. So I had to segregate the risk. So what I did is I just stood up a completely independent commercial construction company so I could sideline that business and then keep the branding and messaging clean in between the businesses. And it's really resonated with both client bases, because there's not any confusion from a marketing perspective of what it is that each company is uniquely equipped to handle. And I brought in an operator who was a former Balfour guy who just knows the business back and well, or, back and forth. He kills it for me on a day-to-day basis. And then I kind of just come into the fold as needed to support, strategic selling opportunities, take a specific meeting that's really going to maybe get us over the hump, or maybe I have a relationship that's driving that. So, I don't interface in that business every day because I have great operators and a great team on that side of the fence. Very much in a similar fashion to how I operate my custom home business today. I mean, I've got a director of operations who does the day-to-day, the sales team's doing their thing, the operators are doing their thing. I kind of come in and out like, I kind of like a helicopter a little bit sometimes, where I'm just going in and I'm plugging in where I need to get things across the finish line a lot of times, or, to come in and make little micro adjustments to keep us on the straight and narrow.
Yeah, the whole concept of construction, people think of a generalized term. Oh, construction, you build things, right? Okay. But as you say, unfold the layers, right? Whether it's a commercial, let's say TI Walgreens that you're putting up, or it's a stadium, right? Those are different animals, although same principles, right? You got maybe 5 or 6 subcontractors on a job, and they've got 2 to 3 guys, to maybe 15 subcontractors on a job, and they got like 500. So you deal with that. And then I think also, correct me if I'm wrong, the layman misconception between residential home building, whether it's, track home, luxury, and commercial, is it still ring true today that, oh no, I'm doing residential, so that means I'm dealing with a homeowner that doesn't know their design color, that's worried about if their driveway is cluttered, and they've got someone coming over and, oh, by the way, don't put dust anywhere, to a commercial job site where it's like, hey man, don't break anything, don't interrupt traffic, and make sure the trash stays within the green fence. How do you, I mean, is that still ring true, or am I off the mark?
No, you hit the nail on the head. And it's also one of the reasons that having the two organizations separated, you create two unique and similar cultures, but very different in their own regard to what it is that you're actually doing. So all of the systems and the processes that we've developed for each business are unique to each business. Although 98% of it is really you're getting to the finish line the same way. You just have different orders of operation. You have different key stakeholders. You have different processes that are gonna satisfy all those different people that are participating in the project. And the one thing about commercial is there's a certain type of person that wants to operate in that space where emotion is removed. This is business. And yeah, there are plenty of people who are like, that is not for me, and that's okay. And but if you look at the other end of the spectrum, who the people that like to participate in the the art of building through emotion and feelings and, visual transformation, where every single thing matters, especially in remodeling. Like new construction, sure, it's got its own element, but we do some high-end remodels in some spaces that carry significant emotional value to their owners, and you're all up in their business, manipulating it and destroying it. And there's you're walking on eggshells most of the day, right? But through those processes, you eliminate all of that. And so the type of person that you have in that role, they got to be, that's the right ass in the right seat. You got to have the right person in there with the right mentality. Otherwise you're doing it all wrong. So, you know, I have 5 construction related businesses. Looking at the two, it's a great spotlight because we are comparing just those 2 big things. But every type of construction carries an entirely different set of emotions, the players that are playing in it. It's wildly drastic.
And it's a different environment by the trades, right? You got your underground guys that are basically operating in a whole nother animal. You've got, your TI and your electrical and your wet plumbing. I mean, they're all on the job, but they got a totally different mindset and how they approach it.
Oh, yeah. It's like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde on a lot of them too.
I was curious if you have any particularly memorable clients that you've worked with, either on commercial or, let's call a spade a spade. More than likely, it's going to be the stories are going to favor the residential side. Do you have any experiences where you laugh looking back now? It's like, oh man, they tested our limits and the project turned out great.
Yeah, I mean, look, here's the funny part, right? Like if we're I actually have a funny story, not a funny story, but a really amazing story. Client, we actually remodeled their house, and come to find out they were in the middle of buying a franchise, and they said, "Hey, can you finish our restaurant out? We're in the middle of going through this. We're going to buy this restaurant. We're going to do this." That was such a fun project. Like, it's so meaningful to them because their entire lives were changing because they were both husband and wife now getting out of their corporate jobs, going to go work and to develop their own, thing, doing this franchise. And that was a cool story, right? Like, because I got to experience them on both sides of the coin. And, they're amazing people, and it meant a lot to them. So I love to work with clients where it is meaningful. I say that a lot of times, especially with the type of client that we're working for now on the residential side. Like, we do look to align with people who want to make a meaningful and intentional investment in their home, right? Like, not just, I want to do this because it's pretty. Like, that's fun. Transformational for purposes of transformation is fun on the aesthetic, but I love to lean into the wellness driven, design. I love to talk about, all the fun things around us wanting to, as a high performing individual myself, I want to operate at my peak, and I want my environment around me to allow me to operate at my peak. So, what are we talking about here? We're talking about envelope tightness. We're talking about indoor air quality. We're talking about water filtration, advanced methods of keeping that water at the optimal state that I want it at. And then ventilation, so that my house is gonna be as comfortable as I can. And then obviously advanced circadian lighting that's gonna help me remain clear. So that's really the evolution of our business is gearing ourselves for that specific type of client. And, having the ability at this point in my career to say, I really, really prefer to work with these type of people. And like, that project sounds like a lot of fun, but, I only have so many opportunities, so many slots on my calendar that I can fill. And, I'm going to choose to fill it with these type of people because the work that we're doing is very meaningful to them. And so that's so much more fulfilling. And that's sort of, like, to kind of take your question and wrap it up in a different way. That's where I'm going with it in terms of where my career is at now.
Yeah, what's the litmus test for commercial then? If that's kind of the litmus test for the residential, what makes a good project that you want to put on the calendar for commercial?
Yeah, I mean, commercial is the act of commerce. Like, that's the hard part about it is like, sure, there are projects out there that are LEED accredited, LEED certified that, you can kind of dig into some of those things, but they're not doing it for the same reason that residential clients are doing. It's not like those companies are going, I want my employees to operate at their absolute peak. So we're going to make this investment in all of this architectural lighting or this indoor air quality. Like, you don't see that in commercial. And I know that there are some trailblazers who want to do that, but it's not equal value. It's not equally as valued. So I think if I were looking to align with specific project types, it's in commercial, it really comes down to efficiency and profitability, because that is going to be a transactional business. I mean, I'm not saying
Yeah.
that there
And
aren't
that's
good
what you're selling too.
relationships,
It's like,
but
hey, I'm your guy to get this done on time, at budget, to spec.
that's it. I mean, and look, yeah, there are great relationships that happen in commercial projects. I have a national contract with a dental partner. It's a lot of TI white box. Sort of like go in, finish this heavy medical dental space, and then off to the next one. And I understand what their brand messaging is. I understand what their aesthetic is. I understand what all these things are, and I understand what their KOP is. And so I can naturally project when I'm doing project after project after project and working with the same person over and over and over. Those relationships are what becomes meaningful. It's like those individual, you know, relationships. The project is a byproduct.
Yeah, I think also on the residential side, you always have to have a degree in, was it psychology, or you're a therapist? Because, I mean, my parents right now, we're going through a remodel up in Idaho, not a remodel, a new build up in Idaho. And the amount of times I've seen the plans and my dad's like, just build it. I don't care. I just want to fish. I'll live out of a box. My mom's just like, I can't
Can you get the
see it.
shed done? Can you
I
get the
don't
shed done
know where the
first? I'll just
wall
put
has to go. And I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
lady, we need to get you a set of VR glasses, right? And they've been married for 50
Yeah.
years. So try to get those two, like, agree on it. And I'm just like, I can't do it anymore. I was like, you know what? You're putting the wall here. You're doing this. And I'm thinking, like, all the projects I've been on, because I was from the heavy equipment side and rental. So I built oil refineries, stadiums, solar projects, 500 million. And I'm like, man, I don't ever want to go back to that space. Deal with two people that cannot decide on where a freaking wall goes for a closet. I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to put you in the closet in a second and I'm going to seal it up. But, when you look at those two different types of projects, you talked about relationships, right? You got relationships with your client, you got relationship with your architect, your engineers, some even times their marketing side and sales teams, but then also the vendor relationships, right? Your partners and who you buy the material from and who's delivering your equipment, or, the technology side, like who's doing your drawings, right? Like, how have you been able to successfully manage those relationships from the different aspects of both business?
Yeah. I mean, I think that comes down to a lot about what our internal core culture is, right? Like, we have a culture of respect and care and intentionality, right? So when we communicate with the people that we're partnering with, we speak to them like we want to be spoken to. We move at the pace we want to be moving at, like we typically try to meet them where they are. And, I think that just doing it with a great sense of respect for what it is that they do, that typically lands well. It's like, hey, look, I respect the part that you're going to play in this, and I'm going to do my very best to give you the benefit of the doubt at every turn. We're all professionals here, but it doesn't mean that we don't make mistakes, and we're going to approach it from the perspective of care and respect. And if that ever changes, then, like, we need to talk to one another appropriately, and we need to move past it, right? So just you kind of like take it from that way, not the Cro-Magnon construction way that we all are used to. It's like blow up, and I've been yelled at. I've been yelled at in a corporate environment. I've been yelled at in a Home Depot office, corporate headquarter office, and I was just like, yeah, he's been in construction a long time, and that's the old way of doing things. And I'm not suggesting that we need to be soft, because we talk about that a lot, and we talk about the new generation coming into construction and how not hard they are and what their philosophy on
Not
life is.
hard.
And
Not
I'm gonna try to be gentle when I put that out there, because, like, when I have to have a hard conversation with someone, it's typically around a couple of things, right? So it's just like, I need you to point me straight. Don't sugarcoat anything. Just give it to me raw because I can go fix something that I have full understanding of. The more you dance around it, the harder it is for me to fix. So just stop trying to save your own tail and tell me, right? So it's like there's so much of that in this business because it's multifaceted and it's multidimensional and there's so many players in it that you just need to get down to the root cause of something fast and then punch it in the mouth and move past it.
So funny they say that because it's like, we talk about culture. That's like, I have to have a safe space, right? Okay, well, you're in construction, so like we
Wear a
have
hard
safe
hat.
spaces.
That's what the hat's for.
It reminds me of that meme I saw, like, football coaches in the 90s to like now, the guy runs up, a kid gets hurt, he comes to his face, the old coach goes, hey, no, he's okay. And then gets right in his face, he grabs his mask and says, you better get up and get back in there or I'm going to basically do all this stuff. And now it's kind
I'm
of
gonna
like,
break your other
he leans
leg.
down and goes, oh, hey, bud, how you feeling? You want to go sit on the sideline with me? Like, it's okay. Like, are you having fun? It's like, wow. No, just tell me what we need to do and get back out there. So,
Exactly.
but
Yeah,
yeah,
I mean, we're all on the clock. We're all on the clock. It's real dollars and cents that we're lighting on fire every minute that we're not productive. And, like as a business owner, you uniquely look at preserving profit. It's not about how much revenue you have. It's all about preserving the profit. So, you're looking at it through a different lens to start with. And people that are younger don't understand. They just say, oh my God, that's a $40 million project. We're rich. It's like, you get to keep this much of it
Yeah,
if
yeah,
you do
right.
your
It's-
job
it's- yeah.
perfectly.
Oh yeah.
big
Only if you
commercial job
execute.
sites, like, when you're doing stadiums, 1%, 2% maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're basically
It's
buying the
razor
brand
thin.
out there and be like, yeah, I built SoFi. Yeah, I built this. Like, okay, did you make any money? No, we covered the cost and we got 7 other projects, so we're good.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's a lot of times the way that this game's played. And so, but they don't know that. And that's the thing. Like, we have to do a good job with the next generation coming through. It's important.
How do you approach the efficiency side of things? Because at least on the commercial side, there's a general stat that wrench time productivity is about 30%, which is relatively, when someone hears that number, is like, really? So about a third of someone's time is actually doing the job, and then the rest is meetings, travel, prep, all these other things. Is it similar in your experience, and how do you mitigate that? Because that ultimately is what drives that bottom line. That margin is how quickly can you get to the end and what's left over.
Yeah. I would tell you on the residential side, 30 might be high. I mean, but I would also suggest that if the level of complexity is also as high, I'm fine with it, right? Because I want to build it once. I want to try to reduce as much slippage, as much rework, and as much giveaway as I can, because those are my 3 core movers of eroding my margin. So no different on the commercial side. It's just a function of how well can I prep these guys to go in and be successful, right? What level of documentation can be gathered from a coordinator, from someone else who is, tasked with providing the field team with the correct information. So if you can incrementally increase that from 30 to 40%, like you're doing 10% better than your peers. And like that makes you more competitive, more profitable, and more likely to succeed. It's micro adjustments. Like that's what everybody doesn't understand. Like nobody in this game understands it. Everybody's looking for a silver bullet. There is no silver bullet in construction. It's death by 1,000 cuts. You got to start chipping away at it 1% at a time. And, you've got to be looking internally at your organization and the efficiencies and the systems and the processes that you've put in place to where you can suggest that you're just trying to get 1% better every day, at something, like whatever that is. And typically you're going to prioritize that in such a way where the number one priority produces you the greatest yield of additional profit. So, just being smart about operational efficiencies, but most people are too busy to even give a shit and look at it. And that's a problem.
I'm curious, and you may not want to fall on this sword, and I'm totally fine if you don't. Scott might be able to jump in, but I'm curious. You mentioned that it's about preparing your team to avoid, those mistakes. You do want to build it once, is what you said. Are there any notable times on projects where you either had an oopsie that you had to, edit, undo, the hard way, or ones that that nearly came to pass and you narrowly avoided? And like, what did you learn from that experience? Because ultimately it falls on your shoulders. Like, what did I do that didn't prepare my team well enough? I'm thinking of, like, it's a dumb commercial, but it's it's a guy with a plan. He's looking at it and he's got this big hole, like they built a well, and he's looking down, and he's with this construction guy. He's like, "Yep, it looks good, and everything's down there, and it's looking good." And then he takes the plan and he flips it upside down, and he's like, "It's supposed to go up." I'm reminded of that. So anything like that that comes to mind that was avoided?
Look, there was a time in my business where we did not have a healthy pre-construction planning phase, and we were operating a lot like smaller builders do when you're very stretched on resources to start with, and you're kind of flying by the seat of your pants, and you're redlining plans on the day that you actually have to execute. Now, you know, nowadays I don't have many, if all at all, of those. But yes, I still have rework, but it's typically because somebody didn't perform or somebody didn't follow instructions. And nowadays it's I'm pointing that back at the vendor that produced it. But from a commercial perspective, you know, plans are wrong all the time. And what what I can tell you in that regard is like, yeah, if you do not teach your supers to be vigilant and to question everything, then you will inevitably build something wrong that didn't need to be there, or you're going to throw money away, right? Like I had a pan deck, and we had to have XYZ above the ceiling in this med space, and I'm like, I'm looking at that, and he doesn't understand the code in the way that I do, and my PM is looking at it and going, "No, why are we doing that?" And we built, I don't know, two, three, $4,000 worth of this thing before he stopped and said, "Why am I building it?" And it's like, okay, why did we not catch that in red line and pull that out? What piece of personnel was not in that room that had that subject matter knowledge to prevent that? Now, granted, it was covered under the contract because we had incorporated into our pricing, but the client didn't need it, and we weren't good stewards of their finances because of it. Had we had that knowledge, we would have prevented their frivolous spending in that way, and we would have been better partners. So I look at things like that as being like, that's what's going to position us. And when we go back to a client and say, "Hey, we just found you $5,000 because your architect is a bonehead," like, we are valued more. So I look at those things.
Yeah. I think like I like the fact that you said getting 1% better, right? Because I think that's honestly a leadership thing, right? And from a human experience, that's a human thing, right? We are all trying to get 1% better, whether it's in our work, our relationships, right? Our community, I think if we're not striving for that 1%, which is manageable, then what are we really doing? We're just standing still. And you mentioned about partnerships too, right? I can tell you how many projects I've been on, large commercials, for instance, airports. Every time we built an airport, right? And I walk through them now as I'm traveling from different cities, and I'm looking at the soffits and the cutouts, where people lean up against or they're sleeping or whatever with their bags. And I'm like, yeah, that shouldn't be there. And people are like, yeah, no, that's why it's built that way. Nope, it's not there. Two trades didn't communicate, and they had to hide it and cover it. So they made it look like a false wall, but it's because the utilities weren't matched up. Could have been doors, could have been ceilings, but it's funny when you see it from the raw bones and that pre-construction to be like, okay, who slipped up? And you mentioned, you led teams very well. My analogy is like, it's the conductor of the orchestra. If someone's not telling the musicians what to play, they're all just making noise.
Mm-hmm.
And they got to be aligned and know what to blow and what to pick, and like to make it sound like music. So your partners, whether it's your vendors who get stuff there on time or build it the right way, or the subcontractors that know, oh, I can't seal up this wall because I'm waiting on, this other, trade to come in and finish first. as you know, it's paramount. And when you get to job sites with like 500,000 man hours, JP, you're oopsie. It's not an oopsie. It's a oh shit.
Yeah.
And then who's
Yeah,
going to
for
pay for
sure.
the oh shit?
Yeah.
So
That's scary.
totally scary. And you ever seen the commercial? I don't know why we keep referencing commercials because people do original stuff. It was funny where you ask like the owner, hey, when's the project gonna get done? You're like, oh, it'll be done in like a week. And then the PM's like, I don't know what he's talking about. It's gonna be done in like 3 weeks. And then you see the labor and go, I don't know what those assholes are talking about. This same thing gonna be done in like a month. And it's like, who's got the right information?
Yeah, exactly. No, that's a very real statement. I get told that all the time. I'm like, yeah, I mean, look at the last 4 projects of this type, and this was the average cycle time. This should be doable, plus or minus some complexity, like, sounds good to me, right? Like, that's the approach I take. I'm always have to be optimistic, but I always try to give a little bit of a fluff margin there. But yeah, you're right. I would tell you, like, hey, you're going to put this door in and it's going to take you 3 hours, right? Should be. Should be 3 hours. We know that. I need 8. Give me 8 to do it. It's like people will take as much time as you tell them they can take.
Yeah, sometimes you look at those drawings. If you've ever, it's like the comparisons where you have an hour, or say a day, a drawing that took a day, and how beautiful it looks, and then you see the same drawing done in an hour, and then the same drawing done in a minute, and you
Yep.
kind of see
The horse.
yeah, exactly,
horse
the
one.
depreciating
Oh, yeah.
the depreciation factor when it comes to time. But it sounds like you're pretty passionate about people, and I want to touch on that a little bit. In how would you advise someone else on picking the right people to work with, picking the right tradespeople, the right vendors, the right partners, subcontractors, etc., what have you? What's been your philosophy there, and what has brought you success that you would say this is for someone just or starting out or getting up there? What should they be doing too?
Well, there's two people that I've always somewhat subscribed to when it comes to hiring practices. And, you know, Richard Branson said it best, like, hire the absolute best person that you can and overpay them, or, you know, there's that aspect of it, but he also somewhat says that, you need to hire the best person that you can afford. Like, that's very important with what your money can get you. But then the other part of that equation is like, when you interview someone, if you feel like you would work for them in another life, hire that person. So if you can take those two approaches and somehow or another blend them together, I've looked at those two things probably the most when I think about who it is I want to hire, because I need to have people that tell me what it is to do, because they're uniquely trained in what they do. They're experts. And I tell every single person that I hire that, when we're in that process, I tell them, I say, the people that you're going to be working around here all are operating under the same philosophy, that they're here to do their very best work, like the very best work of their lives. What we're doing has meaning, a lot of meaning to the clients that we're serving. And these are most likely their single largest investments of their life. And it's important for us to be good stewards of their capital to help produce exactly what's in their heads and to deliver on that and to keep our promises. And so, I like to get my team on board by helping them understand that there's massive value in what it is we're doing and that there's meaning behind it all. And, the dollars and cents aside, we should take a lot of pride in what it is we do, because what we do is very special, and that very, very, very few people get to do what we do every day.
Yeah. I'm going to ask you a question personal. So, if your employees were to write down the core values of the company on the back of a baseball card, what would be on it?
I would say integrity, value, and care. Probably the top 3.
Yep. And that's the thing I think I would suggest to all business owners, right? Like, don't write down your baseball card. Like, what are your employees? What are the people that you serve? How are they going to write those stats down? And what does it truly mean to them?
Yeah, I love that. That's good. I mean, we talk about it a lot. We have every Wednesday, before we start our production meeting, we start with our culture piece first. And we typically start, you kind of do the shake off the announcements. And then we talk about, what was your win over the last week? And that win is not related to typically a sale. We bang the gong a lot. We love to bang it, right? It's fun to win. But when it comes time to like, what did we do? I typically force my team to say something that they felt was over and above and beyond what it is that they're tasked to do, right? So like, and how did they win? And then we have what's called like every Wednesday, or maybe it's every month at this point, I'll give someone what I call keeper of the flame, someone who's embodying the cultures and the values on an ongoing basis, and who's doing better than, their respective peers, because they're the ones who are embodying those values the most. And so I just tell them like, I appreciate that you're keeping the flame. And we kind of do a little thing. So that's really how, from my perspective, we just try to keep it real close and personal.
That's awesome. And
Yeah.
JP, for the sake of time too, I think that might be a good segue to get him to his architects. What do you guys think? Because I can go,
Yeah,
I can talk for JP.
Yeah,
Knows, like, you
yeah.
give me a microphone and like, dude, he's got to shut the camera off, and he's like, stop talking.
No, man, I got all the words today. I had radio earlier today. It was a lot of fun. So they talked to me. They didn't talk me dry. We're good here.
Yeah. Brad, would you work for you? Would your younger version of you work for you today? Are you proud of the leader you've become? You seem like you've got a solid grasp of where you want to be, and it seems like you are where you want to be.
I I would say yes. But I would also challenge the current me at times, because I'm human too, and I have a tendency of being very blunt at times with the people that are closest to me, the people that I trust, and more specifically, the people that I have very high expectations of. I have a tendency of letting my professional guard down and speaking my mind plainly to those people specifically who might be in leadership. And I need to do a better job of taking some of those conversations offline or out of earshot of other members who don't understand the dynamic, because we have a culture of extreme accountability that is very apparent in my organization. That is part of it. You're going to be extremely accountable for what it is that you're doing. But at the same time, they don't need to hear me talk to somebody who I've been working with for 20 years in plain English, say that I'm not satisfied with the result that I got. And sometimes it comes off as not as professional as I need to. And so as I look ahead to the future of, if younger Brad walked in the door, I would tell myself, be cautious and remember to maintain that extremely high level of professionalism at all times outside of closed doors. Because you can lose trust and faith and respect fast, because that's just my belief. So I've not been perfect there. I know that's my fault, but I'm working on it every day.
Hey, none of us are. Yeah,
Yeah, the fact that you're vulnerable to share it, I mean, I can tell you the same thing. I've struggled for many of years trying to be a better thermostat than I am a thermometer. And the way I've reconciled that, obviously, number one, first and foremost, through my faith, right? To surrender to something greater than myself. And then recently I took a group of men through a challenge of, I asked them, I said, I want you to go home and I want you to take an inventory of your input, right? What are you reading? Who are you hanging out with, right? Where do you spend your time? And I said, don't fix it. Just take an inventory of where you get your input. Then come back and reflect and ask yourself the question, is it bearing good fruit? Or is it poisoning you?
Mm-hmm.
And then to your point, get 1% better, right? Just don't try to do everything. Just figure out, like, I want to work on this because this is going to produce the most fruit for not just me, but the people that I get in contact with, the people that I'm here to serve, right? While still remaining unapologetic and going, hey, these are the standards.
That's
Awesome.
great input, man. I did that audit. I did that audit a couple of years ago, man. And
Yeah.
it was really powerful.
Well, on that note, let's close it out. And here's to getting 1% better on all fronts for everyone. And Brad, really appreciate you taking the time, and looking forward to, potentially connecting again in the future. We're looking forward to seeing how your businesses continue to grow.
Thanks, man. Same here.
Yeah, we're expanding to Atlanta, right? We're coming 2026. We're opening markets currently, Arizona, Texas, Southern California, Nevada, but we're heading east, kind of take the Sun Belt.
Nice.
And so, we're the Uber for construction, right? Don't send your guys outside of the job site, increase your wrench time, and just get up on the app and be like, oh man, I need a generator, I need an excavator, I need something. Boom. Hot shot there, less than an hour. Save that, that labor productivity from.
Dude, I love it. That's awesome. Yeah, we used Roadie for a long time, and then there was another service here out of Atlanta that we utilize. I don't let my PMs typically do any of that. I mean, as much as we can, we'll Uber like selections. We'll Uber a lot of stuff to project sites from our showroom.
Yeah, and one thing, because we predominantly work with rental companies, right? The big five, and we're always running and gunning for them. And we understand too the safety aspect. Like, all of our haulers, if they show up and they don't have PPE, suspended for 30 days from the app. Like, you ain't getting any flip-flop shorts and Taco Bell cups coming to the job site. Like, that's
smart though. Yeah. So, I mean, that's one of the elements that we have to manage too, right? It's like, you walk onto my job site, this massive sign of job site safety rules. And here I am. Yeah, you're right. I'm sending an Uber guy over there to go drop off a plumbing fixture at an unsafe site. So yeah, thanks for calling me out there.
All right, gentlemen.
A little uppercut. Nice kidding.
Nah, it's good, man. I like what you're doing.
Thank you.
Cool. Well, thanks so much, guys.
Well, everyone, that is a wrap for today's episode of Beyond the Build. We took away some real valuable lessons and insights, and I hope that you did as well.
If you enjoyed this episode, we would ask that you subscribe so you can never miss an update. If you're a thought leader looking to innovate in the construction industry, let's talk. We'd love to connect and hear your thoughts.
You can find Beyond the Build on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, plus anywhere else that you listen. And if you'd like to learn more about how Faro is changing logistics in the construction industry, please visit our website at faronow.com.
Once again, thanks for tuning in, and until next time, be humble, serve others, and make an impact.